It's been almost 2 weeks since the release of Black Myth Wukong, and it's been breaking more records than entire video game publishers are able to achieve in a lifetime. Even amidst all its success, it's a game that continues to evolve over time, with Black Myth Wukong's recent patch notes addressing key issues some have been having with the game. We're going over these notes, in addition to some more news regarding the Xbox release, mods that have been exploding within the community that many have taken a liking to, potential DLC being discussed due to the success of the game, along with future projects that are likely to take shape from developer game science. It's a big update you're not going to want to miss, so let's first dive into the game's performance. Alright, have you been enjoying Black Myth Wukong? I gotta say, this is one of my favorite games of the year, and I'm stoked the game has been doing as well as it has. Single player games are my jam, and we've got the data to back up just how insane this game has been performing. Black Myth Wukong is officially the most successful single-player game of all time on Steam, earning a whopping 2.4 million peak player count just moments after the game's launch. The success of this game really takes me back to when Elden Ring launched, with that game's peak player count landing just over 952,000 on Steam. Yet, even so, Elden Ring's launch success on Steam came in at less than half of what Black Myth Wukong has pushed. Regardless, Steam is just one player in this game's overall success, as the PS5 version of Black Myth has performed remarkably well, with over 3 million units sold on that version alone, even with China accounting for 2/3 of the PS5 version's player base. With consoles making up a meager 15% of the gaming sector in China, this game's popularity triggered a massive surge of PlayStation 5 sales in the country, even rocketing Sony's stock to where it currently sits, as it has earned an 18% growth over the previous year. With China now facing PS5 scalping issues, and with more and more players around the world getting their hands on the game, Black Myth Wukong is undoubtedly one of the greatest success stories in all of video games, and it is a clear testament to the strength of single-player game development, that not everything in the gaming world these days needs to be a game backed by a $100 million budget, chock full of cookie-cutter open worlds with shallow gameplay and microtransactions. As a result of all this success, Game Science has stated that within just 3 days of the game being on sale, more than 10 million copies of the game have been sold, and weeks and months from now, I'd expect that number to easily double. With such incredible trajectory here, Game Science is hard at work ironing out the kinks that some players have been running into throughout the game, with the developer updating the title yesterday with the following patch notes briefing us all on the big updates now in effect. We're not going to go into absolutely everything here, mind you, as many of these fixes are in regard to graphical and translation errors, but you can see the rather extensive list of this impressive 1.6 gigabyte patch here on your screen, with the full list of the patch notes linked in the description if you'd like to view it in closer detail. The biggest tweak introduced to the patch is without a doubt the slight reduction in stats for Yao Guai King Captain Wise Voice, an optional boss that is part of a quest line in Chapter 3 that has been causing a lot of headaches for certain players. It's a tricky fight, but this encounter has been made a bit easier with the reduction in the boss's stats. But yeah, let me know if you had a hard time with the boss if you've gotten to this part of the game. The patch notes also fixes issues with the annoying Lantern Warden enemies, also in Chapter 3, where a certain attack could push the player into walls, and in general, there are just a lot of crash fixes and visual bugs that were corrected here with this update. One massive bug that has not been fixed, however, pertains to those playing with the Turkish language setting, crashing the game on launch for the PS5 version, while also leading to occasional crashes with the PC version during certain boss fights. While Game Science is actively trying to fix the issue to be resolved in an upcoming patch, they issued a workaround for both the PS5 and PC versions to have users change their system language to English or another language that isn't Turkish in their operating system. It's a fascinating issue, and if you have encountered this issue with the Turkish language while playing the game, let me know in the comments if this has affected you, and if the changing of your system's settings has solved the problem for the time being. While the PS5 version still has a bit of issues regarding the game's performance and frame rate, hopefully those issues will be resolved in a future patch. And of course, for the PS5 players out there, let me know what you think of that version of the game. Now, as far as the Xbox players out there, it's definitely rough not to have one of the biggest games of all time not available on that platform. And what once sounded like the game would eventually hit the Series X and S once the game received appropriate optimization on the Series S, it looks like, well, perhaps the game may not end up on the platform anytime soon, unfortunately. See, apparently what's preventing the Xbox version from releasing is that it is apparently suffering from having memory leaks, where the game can cause significant crashes to the point that it may compromise the performance of the console itself. This information is coming from an Xbox insider over on X, shown here on your screen, and while I always say take insider information with a grain of salt, this user has been quite accurate with a number of Xbox leaks, including complete leaks regarding Game Pass library reveals, etc. Regardless, Game Science is hard at work to get this game functional and optimized to pass certification for the Xbox platform. The insider's post claims at the bottom that, quote, once they get approval, they plan to set a release date for the game, but don't yet know when or how. But other than that error, the game is close to being ready. Baldur's Gate 3 encountered some optimization issues with the Series S before, and yet that version has been released, so hopefully Game Science can get the Xbox version working at some point in the near future. In previous videos, we discussed the likelihood of DLC hitting Black Myth Wukong, with Chinese video game insider on X at Ignis the Wise reporting that DLC would be in development for the game once the game releases, providing it performs well. Well, the game is absolutely killing it, so it wouldn't be much of a surprise if, perhaps, DLC does in fact hit the game. Even the game's own FAQ on its website leaves the possibility open for future DLCs to hit the game, and while it's impossible to know just what may come to the game in an expansion, perhaps additional story chapters featuring more environments, boss battles, quests, and weapons may make their way into the game. There are tons of characters here in Black Myth Wukong that can be further explored, so there's a chance that DLC could revolve around the game's impressive sidecast. Outside of just Wukong though, according to Ignis the Wise, Game Science filed 2 trademarks in China for 2 additional Black Myth games, with them being Black Myth Jiangziya, a game detailing the Chinese military general who helped overthrow the Shang dynasty in ancient China, and the other game being Black Myth Zhongque, a title likely to star the Taoist deity of Chinese mythology of the same name, known to be the vanquisher of ghosts and evil beings. These 2 games would likely be part of the trilogy that Game Science producer Feng Ji, in an interview with IGN China, remarked. These 2 titles would no doubt be a smashing success, considering how well Black Myth Wukong has been doing, so let me know in the comments if you'd be interested in more Black Myth games going forward, and if Black Myth Wukong does get DLC, what would you like to see come to the game? Before we wrap up this video, we gotta talk about the incredible work the modding community has done to the game. Not only are there character models here with the likes of Goku, Kratos, and even Tifa, but there are weapon mods featuring lightsabers, performance mods to run the game better, and even mods to enhance the game's already stellar graphics. Something that reviewers kept bringing up was the lack of a map that would benefit the game, and while I believe that the game not having a map further reinforces the idea of being truly immersed in the game world and navigating through it using landmarks to help traverse the environments is one of the game's highlights. But there is a mod that better gives you an understanding of your place in these massive maps in relation to nearby objectives. All these mods can be accessed with the link provided in the description if you so choose to take advantage of them. And yeah, that's everything you need to know about Black Myth Wukong nearly 2 weeks into the launch of the game. Are you liking it so far? Let me know in the comments below, and stay tuned for more Black Myth coverage as we learn more pertaining to the future updates, DLC news, and more. That's all I got for you. I'll be seeing you real soon in the next one.